Well, now, let me spin you a yarn that'll make your jaw drop faster than a catfish snapping at a worm. I'm Amelia Walsh, 32 years young, and I reckon my life's taken a turn wilder than a steamboat race on the Mississippi. Just last month, I sold my cybersecurity outfit, CyberGuard, for a cool $25 million, aiming to snatch up a dream home in Seattle's Green Hills with a $12 million cash offer. Now, I ain't one to boast, but that kind of money don't come easy to a gal raised in a leaky apartment, sharing a room with my sister Laura and our mama, Margaret, who scrubbed floors to keep us fed. I trusted 'em like the sun trusts the morning, so when I needed a safe spot for that cash overnight, I hauled it to Mama's house, locking it in her vault of a safe. Come dawn, though, Mama and Laura were gone, vanished like dew in July, with my $12 million and a note that'd make a saint cuss. But if you're wondering why I'm smiling like a fox with a hen, stick around. This tale's got a twist tied to a family secret that'll knock your socks clean off. Before I go on, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, be it Seattle or Timbuktu, and hit that subscribe button to catch more stories that'll keep you glued to your screen. Now, let's rewind to where this all kicked off. I grew up in a corner of Seattle where the rain never seemed to stop, and neither did the bills. Our apartment was so cramped you could hear Laura's snores through the walls, and Mama's hands were rough as pine bark from cleaning houses all day. Christmas was a single gift, birthdays a homemade pie, and vacations, why, they were dreams we couldn't afford to dream. But I had a fire in me, a burning need to climb out of that hole. While other kids chased games, I chased books, studying till my eyes blurred, working odd jobs to save every nickel. My high school teacher, Miss Callahan, used to say, "Amelia, you're running like the devil's on your tail." And maybe he was, the devil of poverty, that is, nipping at my heels. That hustle landed me a full ride to Stanford, where I lived on coffee and grit, coding through the night and sending what pennies I could to Mama and Laura. After graduating, I built CyberGuard, a company that shielded banks from digital bandits. It was a hard road, sleepless nights, debts piling up. But by the third year, we were protecting millions, and I was sitting on a fortune. Through it all, I never forgot my roots. I bought Mama a tidy house with a rose garden she'd always wanted, cleared her debts, and set her up with enough to quit scrubbing floors. Laura, 5 years my junior, got her share too, though she burned through it faster than a match in a hayloft. But there was always a shadow in Mama's eyes, a flicker of something, maybe envy, when I'd share my wins. She'd smile, sure, but it was a smile that didn't quite reach her heart, and she'd steer the talk to Laura's latest trouble or her own aches. I chalked it up to a mother's worry, never dreaming it was the seed of a betrayal that'd shake me to my core. So when I needed that $12 million safe for one night, I didn't think twice about Mama's vault, built sturdy after a robbery years back. Little did I know, I was walking into a trap sprung by the folks I loved most. Hit that like button if you're as shocked as I was, and subscribe to see how this tale unfolds. You won't believe what's coming next. Now let me paint you a picture of my younger days, when life was as tough as a winter gale off Puget Sound. Seattle was our home, a city of drizzle and dreams, but for us, it was a 2-room apartment with the wallpaper curled like a bad lie and the radiator hissed more than it warmed. Mama, Margaret, was a woman carved from grit, cleaning houses till her knees ached and her hands cracked like dry earth. She'd come home smelling of bleach, her eyes heavy but her spirit stubborn, raising me and Laura on her lonesome after our daddy, or so she said, passed when I was too young to remember. Laura, 5 years my junior, was a different breed, wild as a colt, with a knack for trouble that'd make a gambler blush. While I buried my nose in books, she was out chasing thrills, dropping out of community college and piling up debts faster than a saloon tab. From a tender age, I knew learning was my ladder out of that damp, dim world. I'd study by a flickering bulb, working shifts at a corner store, saving every dime while Laura spent hers on trinkets and bad bets. My teacher saw the spark in me, and by grace or grit, I won a full ride to Stanford, leaving Seattle with a suitcase and a heart full of fire. There, I lived lean, colding through nights, eating noodles and sending what I could to Mama, who'd call to say Laura needed bailing out again, car repairs, rent, or some gambling debt she swore was a one-time slip. After Stanford, I built CyberGuard, a shield against digital thieves, pouring my soul into it through years of doubt and debt. By the third year, banks were lining up, and my name was whispered in tech circles. I shared my bounty. Mama got a cozy house with a rose garden, her debts wiped clean, and a monthly sum to live easy. Laura got her handouts too, though she'd sulk when I nudged her toward a steady job, calling me high and mighty. But Mama's pride had a bitter edge. When I'd share a triumph, a big contract, a magazine feature, she'd nod, then sigh about Laura's struggles or her own pains. "You've done well, Amelia," she'd say, but her eyes held a shadow, like my light dimmed hers. Once, over supper, she snapped, "Must be nice, having all that money to throw around," then laughed it off. I brushed it aside, thinking it was just her hard years talking. Laura, too, had her moments, secretive calls, quick to anger when I asked about her gambling debts. I figured she was just lost, not plotting. Last Thanksgiving, I caught 'em whispering in the kitchen, the heads close like conspirators. When I walked in, they jumped, and Mama said Laura was seeing a new fella, but their eyes didn't match the story. I should have listened to that prickle in my gut, but love blinds a body, don't it? When CyberGuard sold for $25 million, they were the first I called. Mama wept, saying she was proud. Laura whooped, asking if I'd fund her next scheme. I was too caught in my joy to see their greed shining through. That $12 million, meant for a home to call my own, seemed safe in Mama's vault, built after a robbery shook her years back. I never dreamed the real thieves were the ones I'd shared my table with, plotting under my nose with a secret tied to a past Mama kept buried. Well, now the wheel of my tale keeps turning, and it's time to tell how I set my heart on a grand dream and walked straight into a storm. With CyberGuard sold for $25 million, I had my eyes fixed on a Seattle mansion, a $30 million beauty perched high with views of the Sound, all cedar and glass, promising a life of peace after years of Scrabble. The seller, a fussy sort, had 3 deals fall through, and word was a cash offered sealed the deal quick. So I resolved to plunk down $12 million in cold, hard currency, enough to outshine any rival bidder. The notion set my nerves jangling, for $12 million ain't pocket change, and moving it was like herding cats in a thunderstorm. My banker, Mr. Hensley, a wiry man with a mustache like a broom, near choked on his coffee when I told him my plan. "Ms. Walsh," he said, tapping his desk, "that's 24,000 bills weighing nigh on 26 pounds. A wire transfer's safer, especially with that heist last month in Belltown." But I held firm, knowing the seller craved the certainty of cash. My fiancé, Nathan, a steady fellow who builds parks for a living, took it harder. Over supper at our favorite fish joint, he set his fork down, eyes dark with worry. "Amelia, this is madness. You're tempting fate carrying that much money. What if you're followed? What if it's stolen?" I countered with my plan, hiring James, a security man from my college days, to guard the cash from bank to Mama's house. "Mama's safe is a fortress," I told him, built after that robbery shook her years back. "It's fireproof with a lock tighter than a miser's fist. One night, Nathan, then it's to the cellar." He shook his head, muttering about wire transfers, but I held firm, knowing the seller craved the certainty of cash. 3 days later, I stood in a private room at Puget Sound Bank, watching tellers stack $12 million into tamper-proof bags, then into 4 plain duffels. Hensley hovered, muttering about liability, but I signed his waivers, my heart racing like a colt at the gate. James sent 2 of his best, Lucas, a former Marine, and Clara, sharp as a tack with a hand near her holster. We drove a twisting route to Mama's house, eyes on the mirrors to shake any shadow. Mama's place, a tidy bungalow I'd bought her, sat quiet in a suburb where roses bloomed fierce. She gasped at the sight of Lucas and Clara hauling in the bags, Laura lingering nearby, supposedly helping with Mama's book club supper. "Is all this fuss needed, Amelia?" Mama asked, her voice sweet but her eyes darting to the duffels. $12 million ain't a trifle, I said, leading the guards to the study where her safe hid behind a bookcase, a vault I'd installed for her keepsakes. It swallowed the bags easy, and I punched in the code, feeling Laura's gaze like a hot coal. Lucas said they'd fetch me come morning, and they left, the house settling into an odd quiet. Mama bustled in the kitchen, humming too loud, while Laura asked about the mansion, its views, its rooms, like she was sizing it up for herself. At dinner, Mama's questions came sharp. "All cash, you say? No checks," she prodded, twirling her fork. "Mostly $500 bills to make the deal stick." Laura's eyes gleamed, her voice high. "And the bank just hands it over?" I nodded, mentioning the guards, not seeing the hunger in their stares. Later, Mama took a call behind her bedroom door, emerging with cheeks flushed, blaming it on her book club. I should have caught the scent of trouble, but my mind was on that mansion, blind to the trap being sprung under my nose. The morning sun crept through the faded curtains of my old bedroom, casting a glow that felt too gentle for the storm about to break. I woke in Mama's house, the twin bed creaking under me, my mind already racing to the $12 million locked in her safe and the dream home waiting in Seattle's hills. The house was quiet as a tomb, no clatter of Mama's coffee pot or the sizzle of bacon I'd grown up with. I checked my watch. 7:50 a.m., plenty of time before Lucas and Clara, my security, rolled up at 9. "Mama," I called, my voice echoing down the hall. No answer. I knocked on her door, then pushed it open to find her bed neat as a pin, untouched. Odd, but maybe she'd slipped out early for her book club, I reckoned. "Delora?" I tried the guest room, but silence answered again. A chill started creeping up my spine like a fox sensing a trap. I padded to the study where the bookcase hid Mama's safe. The shelf was ajar, just a hair, but enough to make my heart lurch. I slid it open, and there it was, the safe door gaping wide, empty as a beggar's pocket. No duffels, no $12 million, nothing but cold steel staring back. "No," I whispered, then louder, "No, no, no," till I was shouting, my voice breaking like glass. I tore through the house, flinging open closets, checking under beds, as if $12 million could hide like a lost key. In the kitchen, propped against the coffee maker, I found it, a note in Mama's tidy script. "Amelia, thanks for the money. We're off to our real family stream life. Don't chase us. Margaret and Laura." My knees buckled and I sank to the floor, the note crumpling in my fist. The room spun, my breath coming in gasps as the truth hit like a mule's kick. My own mama and sister, the blood I'd loved and lifted, had robbed me blind. Then I saw it, tucked under the note, an old photo, yellowed at the edges, showing Mama, Laura, and a man I didn't know, smiling like they shared a secret. "Our real family," the note said. Who was he? My mind reeled, but grief drowned the question. I fumbled for my phone, dialing Nathan, my words tumbling out in sobs. "They're gone, Nathan. The money, all $12 million. They took it." 20 minutes later, he burst through the door, hair wild, still in his sleep clothes, his arms pulling me close as I choked out the story. "We gotta call the police," he said, his voice steady where mine was shaken. I nodded, clutching that photo, its mystery gnawing at me. Soon, 2 officers arrived, followed by Detective Karen Holt, a woman with eyes sharp as a hawk's and a notepad that drank in every word. I spilled it all, the cash, the safe, the note, the photo. Her pen paused when I mentioned the man. "Any idea who he is?" she asked. I shook my head, my cheeks burning with shame for my blindness. "I told them I was buying a house. This ain't a misunderstanding. It's theft." Karen's face stayed stone, but her voice softened. "We'll investigate, Miss Walsh. The family cases get messy. You gave them access to the safe willingly. As she photographed the note in my bank papers, Nathan held my hand, but the photo's stranger haunted me. Who was he to Mama and Laura? Why real family? The betrayal wasn't just the money. It was a secret they'd kept, a knife twisted deeper than I could have imagined. My world, built on trust, was crumbling, and that photo hinted at a truth I wasn't ready to face. The days after Mama and Laura's betrayal rolled by like a fog over Seattle's Sound, thick and suffocating. My heart was a bruised thing, pounding with rage one minute, crumbling to dust the next as I tried to make sense of the $12 million they'd swiped and the mysterious man in that photo. Detective Karen Holt took the reins, her sharp eyes digging into the mess like a hound on a scent. She uncovered a trail as cold as it was cunning. Mama and Laura had fled on a private plane to the Bahamas using fake passports crafted with care. They planned this for months, Karen told me, sitting across my kitchen table, her voice steady but grim. Your sister booked the charter 3 weeks back, paid cash, likely your money, and they used names we're still tracing. The words landed like stones, each one sinking me deeper into the truth. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment grab, but a scheme woven tighter than a spider's web. Then came the letter, found in Mama's desk by Karen's team, and an envelope marked Amelia. My hands shook. As I read it, Mama's script spilling a secret that near stopped my breath. The man in the photo was my daddy, not dead as she'd claimed all my life, but alive, a shadow who'd shaped their plan.
He's why we did this, she wrote, to join him, to be whole. My daddy, a ghost-turned-thief, pulling strings from afar. The betrayal doubled, cutting deeper than the money ever could. Laura rubbed salt in the wound, sending a video from some burner phone, her face smiling on my screen like a cat with cream. Hey, sis, she drawled, lounging by a turquoise sea. Bet you're losing it. You had it all. Fancy degrees, big money, while Mama and I scrape by. This cash is ours now, our ticket to the life we deserve. Don't bother looking. We're gone. Her laugh stung worse than a wasp, and I hurled my phone, tears burning my eyes. Nathan tried to hold me, but his arms felt distant, our love straining under the weight of my grief. My days blurred into calls with Karen, meetings with my lawyer David, and sessions with Dr. Clara Moore, a therapist who listened as I poured out my pain. I see Mama's face in every memory, I told her, my voice hoarse, smiling at my graduation, hugging me when I bought her house. Was it all a lie? Did she hate me for rising while she sank? Clara's eyes were kind but firm. Betrayal like this rewrites your past, she said, but it don't erase your worth. Her words were a lifeline, but I was drowning still. Nathan grew weary, his patience fraying like an old rope. One night he snapped, Amelia, you're letting this eat you alive. You don't eat, you don't sleep, you're chasing ghosts. I fired back. They stole $12 million and my daddy's truth. What am I supposed to do? Forget it? He sighed, his eyes heavy. I just want my Amelia back, not this shadow. The next day, he packed a bag, saying he needed space, leaving me alone in our apartment, the silence louder than any scream. Karen's updates kept coming, each one a twist of the knife. Mama's computer held searches for non-extradition islands, dating back 6 months, and emails with Laura plotting the big move. They'd even met a shady fella in Tacoma, likely tied to my daddy, who helped forge their new names. Every clue painted Mama not as the weary saint I loved, but a schemer who'd played me for a fool. The daddy I'd never known loomed largest, a phantom whose shadow darkened every step I took. 6 weeks after Mama and Laura made off with what I thought was $12 million, my life was a heap of ashes, scattered by a wind I couldn't outrun. Seattle's gray skies mirrored my soul, hollow, heavy, and lost to a betrayal that gutted me worse than any storm. Nathan was gone, his absence a quiet ache in our apartment where his coffee mug still sat unwashed. My name, once golden in tech circles, was now whispered with pity or scorn. Amelia Walsh, the fool who let her kin rob her blind. A speaking gig at a cybersecurity summit got canceled, and old colleagues dodged my calls, their silence louder than any rebuke. I turned down a fat consultant offer, too consumed by grief to think straight.
Night after night, I'd lie awake, chasing memories of Mama's smile, wondering if my daddy's shadow had always been there, pulling her strings. Detective Karen Holt kept digging, but her updates were like chasing smoke. Mama and Laura had slipped from the Bahamas to parts unknown, their fake names vanishing into the ether. "They're ghosts now," Karen said, her voice tight, "and your father's likely calling the shots." That man, my daddy, was a specter I couldn't shake, a con man, Karen reckoned, who'd shake their scheme. My world was unraveling, and I was a stranger in it, gaunt and hollow-eyed, staring at my reflection like it belonged to someone else. Then, at 2:17 a.m., my phone jarred me from a fitful sleep. It was James, the security fella who'd guarded my cash that fateful day. "Ms. Walsh, I gotta see you now," he said, his tone sharp as a blade. "It's about the money. Ain't safe to talk on the phone." My heart pounded, and 20 minutes later, he stood in my living room, his face grave under his security polo. "Amelia," he said, scanning the room like a hawk, "the money your mama took, it wasn't real." I blinked, the world tilting like a ship in a squall. "Counterfeit," he went on. "High-grade fakes, swapped out before we ever reached your mama's house." My knees wobbled and I sank to the couch, my mind racing. "That's impossible," I stammered. "I saw it at the bank." James nodded, calm as a preacher. "You did, but here's the kicker. You ordered the switch yourself." I near choked. "Me?" He pulled a paper from his pocket, my signature staring back, authorizing a swap of $12 million for fakes. A memory flickered. My late mentor, Professor Hargrove, warning me years back about my daddy's criminal past, urging me to trust no one, not even kin. In the chaos of the bank, I'd signed James's form, thinking it routine, my mind clouded by Hargrove's death a month prior. "You told us you suspected your mama on account of Hargrove's warning about your father. We secured the real cash in our vault, tagged the fakes with trackers. Them bags left your mama's at 4 a.m., headed to an airfield, but the trackers showed the switch, fakes, not cash." Laughter bubbled up, wild and sharp like a dam breaking. All my anguish, all my ruin, and Mama and Laura were flaunting worthless paper across the globe. The real $12 million sat safe, waiting for me. "I need to see it," I said, my voice steady for the first time in weeks. 2 hours later, in James's vault, I unzipped a duffel, touching stacks of genuine bills. The trackers blinked on the screen, showing Mama and Laura in Paris, spending their fool's gold. For the first time, I felt a spark of fire. Not vengeance, but power. I wasn't broken. I was awake. With the truth of that counterfeit cash lighting a fire under me, I shed my victim's cloak and donned the strategist's armor, ready to turn the tables on Mama and Laura. Seattle's gloom couldn't dim the spark in my soul as I set to work, my mind sharp as a razor and twice as quick. Standing in James's vault, staring at my $12 million, untouched and real, I felt like a captain reclaiming her ship. The trackers and the fake bills blinked on a tablet, showing Mama and Laura gallivanting through Paris, spending what they thought was my fortune. "They're at it like queens," James said, pointing to a map. "5-star hotels, art galleries, fancy suppers." I nodded, a plan taking root. I wasn't just chasing my money's shadow. I was hunting the truth about my daddy, the ghost who'd haunted this mess from the start. I gathered a crew tighter than a drum. James, with his security know-how, Detective Karen Holt, whose skepticism melted when she saw my bank papers, Sophie, my old Stanford pal who'd run CyberGuard's operations with me, and David, my lawyer, whose pen was mightier than most swords. We set up in a conference room at James's outfit, walls lined with maps and photos, the air thick with purpose. "They've got a pattern," I said, tracing their path. "Bahamas to Dubai, then Paris. They're buying art now, paintings, sculptures, likely washing their cash through galleries. Sophie crunched the numbers, her brow furrowed. At this rate, they'll burn through the fakes in a year, maybe less. Karen slid over Instagram shots, cropped but telltale. Mama's hands clutching a champagne flute, Laura's posture by a Parisian fountain. They're flaunting it, Karen said, posting the taunt you, thinking you're watching helpless. I smiled, sharp as a blade. That's their mistake. They're predictable. James nodded. Trackers show they've booked flights to Florence, arriving in 3 days. Hotels the Villa Medici, swanky as they come. That's where we'll meet 'em, I declared, my voice steady. I wanted to see their faces when the truth hit, to hear what my daddy's role was in this tangle of lies. David laid out the legal net. Italian authorities were keen on counterfeit cases, and he'd lined up their help. We'll need proof the bills are fake, he said, adjusting his tie. Once they try spending at a gallery, we've got 'em. Sophie mapped the Villa Medici's layout while James coordinated with private eyes in Florence, confirming the women's arrival. Over 72 hours, we honed our plan like a blade on a wheatstone. Karen dug deeper into my daddy's trail, finding whispers of a con man known as the Fox, linked to Mama's emails. He's likely the brains, teaching them how to vanish. The thought of him, my own blood, pulling strings, stoked my resolve. I wasn't just reclaiming my money. I was unraveling a family secret that shaped my life without me knowing. By the time we boarded a plane for Florence, I felt a calm I hadn't known in weeks. Sophie sat beside me, reviewing our moves. You sure about facing them? She asked, her eyes searching. It's not just the money, I said, staring out at the clouds. It's knowing who they are, who he is, and proving I ain't the fool they took me for. Florence awaited, its old stones promising a reckoning. I wasn't the broken gal who'd wept in Seattle's rain. I was Amelia Walsh, and I was taking back my story, one truth at a time. Florence's golden light poured over the Arno as I stepped into the Galleria d'Arte Moderna, my heart steady as a drumbeat, though the air held the weight of a reckoning. Mama and Laura, thinking they were spending my $12 million, were about to face a truth sharper than any blade I'd ever wielded. Our team had tracked him to this gallery, where they'd booked a private viewing of Renaissance sketches, planning to drop a fortune in fake bills. James's trackers blinked steady, showing their counterfeit stash in a sleek Prada bag. Karen Holt waited outside with Italian police, Sophie manned the hotel command post, and David stood ready to seal the legal trap. I wore a plain navy dress, hair swept back, blending with the gallery's cultured crowd, but my eyes were fixed on the private room where Mama and Laura sipped Prosecco, unaware of the storm coming. I slipped in, quiet as a shadow, and there they were. Mama in a sapphire gown, her auburn hair gleaming. Laura in Gucci, diamond studs flashing as she laughed at a sketch. A stack of $500 bills sat on the table, their latest bid for a Da Vinci study. Room for one more? I said, my voice low but clear. Their heads snapped up, faces crumbling from smug to stunned, like actors caught in the wrong play. Mama's glass trembled. Laura's eyes darted for the door. Amelia, Mama whispered, her voice a ghost. How'd you? I cut her off, pulling a chair close. I ain't been subtle, posting your champagne toasts online. Nice gown, Mama. Armani? Laura's jaw tightened, recovering first. Here to beg for your money. Too late, sis. I smiled, calm as a summer lake. I'm just curious. How's spending my $12 million feel? Worth stealing from your own blood? Worth lying about my daddy? Mama's eyes narrowed, but I pressed on, lifting a stack of their bills. These 500s are rare, perfect for fakes if you're clever. High-grade counterfeits, near impossible to spot unless you got the right tools. I held one to the light, showing the false watermark. Laura snatched it, her face paling. You're lying, she hissed, rifling through the stack. We've spent thousands in tourist traps where clerks don't check. But try buying this Da Vinci. It'll unravel. Mama's voice shook. The money was real. We took it from your safe. I leaned in, my gaze locking hers. After it was swapped for fakes, the real $12 million is in a vault, safe as a church. I knew something was off, thanks to Hargrove's warning about Daddy. I protected myself. Their horror was a living thing, eyes wide as they grasped the truth. And Daddy, I said, voice hard. Tell me about him.
The man in the photo, the real family you ran to. Mama's face crumpled, tears smudging her makeup. He's alive, Amelia. Your father, Victor, a kind man. He planned this, said we'd be free together. Her words hit like a fist, confirming the shadow I'd feared. Laura lunged for the door, but Karen and 2 Italian officers stepped in, badges flashing. Catherine and Emily Reed, Karen said, using their fake names, you're under arrest for counterfeit currency and theft. The gallery hushed as they were led out, Mama sobbing, Laura cursing soft. In a police room later, Mama faced me, her gown clashing with the gray walls. Why, Mama? I asked. I gave you everything. She looked away. You had it all. Success, love. Victor promised us a life where we weren't your charity. Her words stung, but I saw her fear of him, a man who twisted her love into greed. The truth was out, and with it my chains fell away. The Florence air was thick with the scent of justice as Mama and Laura faced the consequences of their counterfeit caper. But for me, the real reckoning was mending the heart they near broke. Seattle called me home, and I went, carrying a truth heavier than the $12 million they tried to steal. Mama, or Margaret, as the courts called her, drew 6 years for theft, fraud, and passing fake bills, her sapphire gown swapped for prison gray. Laura got 4, with a chance at parole in 2, her defiance crumbling into pleas for leniency. My daddy, Victor, the kind man who'd spun their greed into a scheme, slipped the net, his shadow still hunted by international law. David, my lawyer, pushed for hard sentences, saying mercy might embolden others, but I held back from testifying to their full harm. They've lost me, their freedom, their names, I told them, signing the last papers. That's punishment enough. Back in Seattle, I found a new dream home, not the glassy mansion I'd first chased, but a cedar-clad house on a wooded bluff with porches begging for coffee and quiet. It cost less, but felt more, a haven where I could breathe again. Nathan came back after Florence, his eyes proud as he saw me stand tall. We rebuilt slow, with suppers by candlelight and talks with a therapist who helped us stitch our trust. You faced a dragon and won, he said one night, his hand warming mine. I smiled, knowing the dragon wasn't them, it was my own doubt. Work called too, but I didn't return to text grind. Instead, I started a nonprofit, Haven of Trust, helping folks heal from betrayal, families torn for greed, hearts cracked by lies. It gave my pain purpose, turning scars into bridges for others. Friends I'd pushed away came back, their laughter filling my new home, and I learned to share my story without shame, signing strength in its telling. The shadow of my daddy lingered, a question I might never answer. Was he the spark that lit Mama's greed? Or was it always in her, waiting for his whisper?
I've wrestled with it in quiet moments, but Dr. Clara's words echoed, their choices ain't your mirror. I chose to let the question rest, not rule me. Nightmares faded, replaced by dreams of porch swings and Nathan's smile, and I found trust again. Cautious, hard-won, but real. One evening, as the sun painted the sound in pinks and golds, I sat with Nathan, the world soft around us. Funny thing, I said, my voice steady. If they'd asked, I'd have given them enough to live well, not $12 million, but plenty. He nodded, his arm around me. Some folks can't ask, Amelia. Stealing feels like power. I leaned into him, knowing I'd never fully grasp their hearts, but I could shape my own. Haven of Trust grew, and with it, my peace. I wasn't stronger for the betrayal, but clearer. About love, about worth, about the life I'd build despite my daddy's shadow. The house on the bluff held my heart, its walls echoing with new memories, proof I'd risen not because of their sin, but in spite of it. Trust, I learned, ain't a gift you give blind. It's a garden you tend, and mine was blooming again. Now, folks, as I sit on my porch overlooking Seattle's Sound, the sun dipping low and painting the sky like a promise kept, I reckon it's time to tie this tale with a truth that's bigger than the $12 million Mama and Laura tried to swipe. Life's got a way of throwing curveballs that make a steamboat pilot sweat, but it's what we do with them that shapes who we are. This yarn ain't just about a family turned thief or a daddy's shadow that near broke me. It's about what betrayal teaches us when the dust settles. Mama and Laura's greed, spurred by a con man's whisper, showed me their hearts, not mine. Their choice to steal, to hide a father I never knew, wasn't a mark on my worth, but a mirror to their own emptiness. I learned that trust, precious as it is, ain't a blind gift. It's a garden you tend, weeding out them that'd poison it while nurturing those who help it bloom. I found that garden again with Nathan's steady hand, with friends who filled my home with laughter, and with a nonprofit that turns my scars into hope for others. If there's a lesson here, it's this. Betrayal don't define you, no matter how deep it cuts. It's a storm, fierce and loud, but it passes, leaving you to rebuild stronger, wiser, with a clearer eye for what matters. For me, it's the quiet of my cedar house, the love I'm mending with Nathan, and the folks I help through Haven of Trust, showing them they ain't alone in their pain. Even my daddy's ghost, still out there somewhere, can't dim that light. Hidden truths shape us, sure, but they don't own us unless we let them. I'm sharing this not to stir pity or gloat over justice served, but to reach you, sitting there, maybe nursing your own wounds. Betrayal comes in all sizes. A friend's slight, a kin's deceit, a secret kept too long. If you faced one, you know the ache, but you also know the strength that grows in its wake. So drop a comment below. Tell me your story, big or small, where a hurt made you tougher, wiser, more yourself. Your words might lift someone else watching, feeling alone in their fight. If this tale struck a chord, hit that like button and subscribe to join our little community of folks who stared down storms and come out shining. We've got more stories coming, each one a reminder that life's greatest twists can lead to the finest chapters. Thank you for listening, for sharing this ride. Keep tending your trust, cautious but never closed, for it's the root of all that's good. Till next time, hold fast to what's true and let the rest blow away like chaff in the wind.